evening. This is a work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. It is 7 o'clock. Two quick things. Today is election day, and the polls are open for another hour and 58 or 59 minutes. So if you haven't voted, get out there and vote. Secondly, I wanted to wish Max a happy birthday. Technically Maxine, I don't think anybody calls her that, but happy birthday, Max. Hope it's a good one for you. And happy spring to everybody. We've got a fairly extensive agenda this evening, or at least a number of items that we have. We're going to start off with a discussion on downtown zoning and how we're going to move forward with that. And I'm going to ask Trustee Connell to kick that off.
So I brought this up as a continuation of a conversation we began last year about extending the updates to our zoning code to modernize it where we have done so for Lower Beekman. And I would like to do that for most of the downtown area, particularly with a focus on preserving the kind of historic appearance, which I think is very valuable to all of us in the village. I think we would need to engage a third-party consultant who is an expert in this area to organize and align all of us get our thoughts correct and make sure everybody's on board with the proposed changes using our existing ones as a template. I think there's not really anything stopping us, and we should move forward with an RFP to select that consultant, engaging a number of different qualified firms, including the one that was used before, any other ones that we know. And I'm mindful of the fact that this is, I think, overdue, and we are all in alignment. So that's all. I don't think there's much to decide now because we don't have any of the facts.
Where we left this conversation, I think, I don't even know how long ago, was there was potentially an opportunity to focus on Valley, Cortland, and Upper Beacon, as like a next sort of wave. And so, the zoning that applies to Lower Beacon is different. It has like different building typologies than what would potentially apply to some of these other blocks. And then there's obviously side streets, which are different than commercial corridors. So, I'd be in favor of exploring definitely the commercial corridors and maybe have a discussion around side streets.
And I, of course, would remind us all that we're about to engage in the New York Forward process. And that may have, that may involve looking at zoning as well. So we just need to keep that in mind about what's, part of that process and how we go forward. But in terms of getting this moving while we're waiting in anticipation of who the state's going to assign us as a planning firm to work with us on that, exploring who else is out there. And my guess is that there's not that many firms that do this that have experience, municipal side experience. It's not thousands, certainly, and that it's probably going to be some of the same folks that the state look at as well. But we can put together an RFP and get moving on that.
The interesting thing about the New York Forward program is that whatever planning firm is dedicated to us, they're going to really know the downtown, right? And if there was to be a supplemental RFP for that kind of work and they were to respond, they'd be in like a really good position to respond. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, I'm concerned about the timeline though, because
Yeah.
I anticipate this would take a while. So if it's like a 2 or 3 month, you know, we prepare the RFP, we wait a few months, see who they appoint, and then include them. But if it's like 6 to 8 to 12 months, then,
I think from what they've been saying so far, it's gonna be 2 to 3.
okay, so that
You
puts
know,
us in
they're,
like May.
we might, yeah, get an RFP out, and at the same time that they're, or when that's out, we would be notified by the state of who's gonna be working with us. They're talking about trying to get this process, the New York Forward process, started in June or July.
Okay.
And having it completed in a 7-month period. So they're like really serious about, let's get in, let's not fool around with long planning cycles. Let's get in there and put this money to work. Let's take serious time and effort to make sure we're putting it in the right place, in the right projects. But let's jump on it and do it now. So they could overlap.
And that effort will include a pretty deep public outreach and engagement process moving forward.
But I think,
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, going ahead with an RFP doesn't commit us to anything. And if for some reason it's New York Forward is delayed, then we have started. And it also would put us in a position of being able to look at, with someone, at areas that are outside of the New York Forward catchment area. So-
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea too, is because there are many other areas of our village that have some historical significance.
The other planning effort that's afoot is the RFP that you have out on the street for climate smart community. So, for the climate action plan. Yeah, so there's potentially another planner being brought on to do the climate action plan, which has tie-ins to the comprehensive plan, which potentially also has tie-ins with zoning. So there's like, we've got like multiple things kind of converging.
It's like a Venn diagram.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which
We
is an
gotta find the middle.
opportunity. Yeah, climate action plan's gonna have a public outreach process too. So I personally think it'd be awesome if it was all the same
Yep,
company, but
and it sounds it would be some efficiencies that we would see in a lower bid price.
yeah. I don't know how to pull that off, but maybe we could. Yeah.
So let's get an RFP together, circulate that, and move from there.
That sounds good.
Good? Okay, our next discussion item, Mr. Giacchio, the Northeast Agreement for Special Rec.
Yes.
It's an annual renewal.
Yeah, some of the newer board members might not know, there's a consortium made up of, I believe, 7 or 8 municipalities that provide special recreation. And each village contributes a certain amount based on population and number of participants. We do this every year. It's a very valuable service that we provide the residents. We don't have the expertise to provide that type of recreation in-house. The total cost, we don't have it there, I emailed it later, it's $7,870 for the year. And again, I think we're getting off pretty cheap for the service they provide the village.
This is something Matt has in his budget, right?
Yeah, and budgeted and recommends.
Sounds good.
Yep, I
Thank you.
support this.
Yeah, I think another way of saying it is we get a tremendous bang for the buck on this
Yeah.
program. Okay, we'll put that on for next week. Fremont Pond RFP, we got 5 responses, I believe.
We had 5 responses. We forwarded them on to the Environmental Advisory Committee, who were very much involved in the RFP process and familiar with Fremont Pond history. They recommended 2. They couldn't decide amongst the 5. They recommended 2. One of the ones that they recommended had a flaw in their application in terms of the amount of, they didn't provide a lump sum cost. It was also unclear exactly what they would charge in total. So my recommendation is that we go with the second one they chose, which was Langen. Their lump sum is $237,800. The grant that we have is for $292,487. So it's within the budget. They would definitely have additional hourly rate work that they would have to do over the course of the project, but it would not exceed the grant. So that's my recommendation.
So can I ask, has this all been scoped out since we're getting the contractor, and is the neighborhood there aware of what the plan is? Do we know?
This is a design.
This is just a design.
And
Okay.
outreach.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be involved with the outreach. I don't want to say they all know it, but a lot of the residents in and around Fremont Pond
They do, okay,
are
good.
aware of it, but we will certainly make sure they're, intricately involved in the whole process as we move forward.
And there would be a public engagement as part of whichever one of these we select.
Got it.
Is it worth finding that lumps, or that cost for the first choice of that on here, or before we reject?
I think
Curious.
so. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I mean, their numbers were really odd.
Yeah, the way they presented it was kind of weird, that's why I questioned it before, so yeah, I'd like to see the lump sum.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you just reach out to them and say, what do you guys really mean?
Yeah.
I was actually, I mean, to be honest, right, I was surprised that HVEA was recommended, just given the project experience and the applicability to our condition. Like, I preferred Ingenuity. I thought that had the most applicability, and the projects that they've done in the past are very relevant to what we're trying to get done. But Langen was like my personal second. I have professional experience with Langen, and they're incredible. You know, the work that they did in Yonkers is absolutely, like, tremendous. So I only have good things to say really about Langen, so I agree with
okay, that's good context.
Anthony's suggestion.
Well, let's put it on for approval, and in the meantime, if you could get a number and circulate it before next week
Yeah.
on these other guys. Okay. Next up, we all got, I think throughout the county and surrounding counties, a really exciting news that the guys who are cleaning up Indian Point are going to dispose of radioactive water by dumping it in the Hudson River, which, it's sort of, I don't know, it's appalling. It's like, seriously? Like, how can you even begin to think that? So there's an effort obviously underway by different municipalities and counties say, don't do this. One way, I think, is by increasing the fines for dumping it. There's an argument that the fines for dumping radioactive water into the Hudson, the fines are so low that it's like, hey, if that's all it's going to cost, it's worth it. Let's just dump it, pay the fine. If it's a couple $1,000 a day, then go for it. So it's, for me, we've spent, the greater we, the folks that live in this state, this country, have spent decades cleaning up the river and stopping people from poisoning it, and it's paying off. It's why we see the ospreys and the eagles, and people can fish again and swim in the river. And now somebody wants to dump literally radioactive waste in it. So what's before us is essentially a question about whether or not we as a village should weigh in on this. And I think certainly Deputy Mayor Scaglione brought this up. I think you might have been even the first of us to bring it up and say, what? No, you can't, so, we have, at the very least, I think we can do a resolution, that we've got some models to look at, to say our disappointment that this is even being considered, and weigh in with our very strong objections to it.
Well, Riverkeeper had a webinar last week about it, and I went online and listened to it. It was a lot of scientific, over my head stuff about,
Parts per million.
parts, this, that, the other thing. But basically, they really just wanted people to, contact your assembly person and your senator and to tell them that you're against this. I would suggest that that's what the residents of Sleepy Hollow do as well. It's very easy to do. You can go to NewYorkStateSenate.gov, and you can literally put in the bill number S.5181, and it'll bring it up, and you can oppose it or be for it, and it will let your state senator know as well, so they can, make an informed decision about what their constituents want. And also, many other municipalities, including the county, are doing a resolution as well. So I think it would be in the best interest of Sleepy Hollow, especially since we have very active waterfront now, and we're promoting active recreation on the water. We have a private beach club that children swim at. We have a lot of fishermen. I really think it would be in our best interest to pass this resolution.
I find it shocking that the discharge of radiological agents is not already banned.
Well, they've done it, they did, well, it was active, whatever, there was always a release, but I guess this is particularly a larger amount.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion like that plant has leaked enough radiation into the Hudson River. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's-
considering we have the new river walk and the village is gonna have its anniversary next year, there's just too
It's
many
like-
reasons not to draw negative attention.
Right. It's like not acceptable.
We're looking at more kayak racks, more ways to get people into
Yeah.
the water.
Right.
But I would really encourage everybody to reach out to our state senator.
Can we, oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, write a letter, go to the website, and be very proactive about it.
Can we maybe do outreach with Bill Vatson and, somehow make it known that we've done this resolution? And do the resolutions get made known to the county? Do we file those or?
If
File with the
we
Department of
send
State.
it to them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would
But
take,
I think that's a great
yeah.
idea. I mean, it does a couple of things. One is to make sure that the word goes out, as you're suggesting, Denise, to our residents, is, put it on the website, put it in an email blast. It's like, look, this is being proposed. You can weigh in on it by doing this. So I think there's a way of getting it out to folks so that you can respond as you suggested, and I think get it to the county as well, through Bill and, and to get it out in other places as well.
Yeah, and I think maybe once we do the resolution, if it passes, we could, again, send it to our state senator, send it to county executive, that sort of thing, just so they're aware that it's done.
We have a village officials committee meeting on Thursday. We could also see if all the other villages would be interested in
Mhm.
joining.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There's what pops into my head is a few years ago, there was a proposal to park barges on the Hudson. There's a big oil depot right around Albany, and the idea was if you load it up with oil or heating fuel, whatever that they've got there, they put it on the barges, and then they float them down the river, and they were going to park them initially like at Yonkers and at Croton. And so you've cleaned up the river, and now it's going to look like, a truck stop with
I
these
remember
barges
that.
sitting out there. And the real reason behind it was that then as price changes came out, you could get the stuff out of your depot on land into a barge ready to ship. And it's just sitting there in the river, not in New York Harbor, where you can't do it, but up in the Hudson. And then bang, you can, in a couple hours, you can get it out and move it. So let's park our product someplace where we can react quickly to market changes. And the rest of us would have to stare at it.
And then
Have the risk
do-
of a spill.
And do fuel transfers out in the middle of the river.
Yeah, in the middle of
Yeah.
the river.
Great.
It's like, oh, no, there was never going to be a spill. it's,
And barges don't break loose.
right, they don't
ever.
break loose, nobody ever runs into them, and, I
Right.
mean, all the rest of it, it was really a mess, and there was a very widespread, very loud response to that, and it never happened. The Coast Guard, I think, was supposed to rule on it. They had buried it in some regulatory hearing somewhere, and to make that happen. So hopefully we can do something similar collectively. Okay, so we'll get a resolution put together and for next week, and we can have Mr. Batson get it set for the communication side to our residents. Speaking of communication, our next couple of items are directly related. Just moving forward on our updated website or new website or new edition of the website. There's a bunch of different ways to say it. We have a proposal to renew those services in two areas. And the first is on the Sleepy Hollow Connected design services. Mr. Giaccio.
Yeah, the board retained Schumacher Meets to lay the foundation for it's a microsite off the village website called Sleepy Hollow Connected. It was initially created for the comprehensive plan. Now it's being used to get into more of the detail of work that's going on in the village with regards to projects and various developments that are going on. We met on several occasions with an ad hoc communications committee, which included Trustee Spiro, Bill Batson, myself, Lynn Moffett, and Paul McCarthy, to create that initial foundation for this website, of which you saw a little glimpse of it last week with Bill Batson. Now it's the next phase of this project, which is to get all the data and all the information into the Sleepy Hollow Connected website and go live with it.
Yeah.
So this is the phase 2 of that project. And Bill Batson has looked over this proposal and is recommending it be approved.
And the cost, for the record, is $3,240.
So I think last week, I really like the new site, and I can see why it is a more attractive place to find information. I think my overall concern is that our current website, where people go, is so disorganized, it's missing stuff is hard to find. I just think it's way overdue for an update. So I think this is good, and this is progress. I just worry that we're gonna go after this shiny new feature and leave behind the actual core website. I don't know what the right timing on that is, but I like all of these services as far as organizing it, updating it. I feel like we should actually be doing that for our website.
I agree.
Totally
I would agree too.
Totally agree. I don't think you'd find any disagreement here.
I wonder if there's room to roll that into the DRI, New York Forward. It's got to be infrastructure. I mean, that's an infrastructure, a website now.
We'll find out about that, but I think making a stronger effort to push those other pieces. They've I know various pieces of it have been considered through this process, but I think us pushing the folks involved to say, like, come on, now.
Yeah, for the main website.
Speaking of the New York Forward thing, I'd love for that effort to live in this, right? This is a really good place for that to live. Like, we could just, like, the comp plan was branded Sleepy Hollow Connected, the New York Forward initiative could be branded Sleepy Hollow Connected, like, you just keep it going. That's for discussion. And I think the one thing that I'd really like to see in this website is a map. Remember, we've heard a request for a map.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But having the projects pinpointed on a
Yes.
map, and you could click the pin and understand what's going on and where it's going on. I think that'd be super, super helpful. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And that sounds like it's another initiative that we probably have to take on, correct?
Which would be the other one?
A new village.
Yeah, I don't
website.
even know if it has to be new. I like the
Clean-
look, I think it's
cleaned up.
fine. It doesn't need to be fancy, but
needs to be
it needs to be
streamlined.
streamlined and organized.
The redoing the village website is in the works. That has been discussed. And we've been reaching out to various companies that do that work. The company that does ours seems to be the one that most municipalities use.
This one, or the one currently?
Now, drawing a blank on the name.
sleepyhollowny.gov.
No, Civic Plus. That's
Yeah.
what
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah.
called. They are upgrading their system, and it's fairly costly, so we were looking at other options, but it looks like that's in process too. I think one of the things about having this site is to take some of the noise that's on the main website and pull it off so you can clean it up a little, because it is hard to navigate. But that has definitely been discussed to upgrade the regular village website as well.
Would there be any advantage in having the same people, because if they're gonna be combing through our website, finding all these things, can they reorganize it?
I am not sure if they're capable, but we'd have to look.
Okay.
Also, would the current provider even allow that? I would imagine that they'd
That's true.
wanna, they'd have to do it.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to taking over the entire website. You're saying just have them design it.
Clean it up.
Clean it, yeah, like figure out, okay, what are our 5 main pages, and then what are the sub-pages under that, and how do we navigate?
When we did this last time, we worked with their designer for their
Civic Plus?
Civic Plus,
Okay,
but maybe we can bring in our designer to work with their designer to do something to their, I don't know, we'll look into it, but it's definitely been in the works and discussed, and that's the intent, is to revamp the entire website.
and you said their cost is increasing, would that be for hosting even? So like, we're basically gonna have to decide either to upgrade with them and pay a lot more, or just switch?
And Bill Batson has been meeting with them.
Okay,
Yeah, it takes a while to upgrade it, you gotta transfer all the data and everything, so it's been taking a while, but we'll get there.
okay,
There's a lot of material.
I know,
That's a lot of
it's
content.
just,
It's really
I know.
wild
It's
on
gonna
our
go-
website.
It's gonna disappear if you don't upgrade it, or just
I think that's a whole different conversation. I think that one that we should have.
about what?
The village's
whether it's gonna be
website.
disappear or
Yeah.
all the materials that we have in there if we don't grade it or.
Well, I don't think we would remove our old website unless we had a new
Yeah, you can't get rid of
platform.
it.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't lose anything, it would just be reorganizing it.
But are we good on this one?
I'm a yes on
Yeah.
Schumacher meets. He's got a funny
We'll put it
company
on
name.
for approval bless you, next week then.
Bless you.
Kind of following in the same vein, Mr. Giaccio, the Blackboard Connect contract is up for renewal.
Yeah, this is the reverse 911 system that we already have in place. This is the ability to do text for emergency noticing, phone calls, and emails. This is an annual cost. I think it's a 2-year agreement. It's just to maintain what we currently have. But I think we've already talked to Bill Batson about promoting this service that not enough people are taking advantage of, so we're gonna work on that, but this is just to make sure that we still have that capability.
I'm in favor, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, this is what is going to give us the ability to reach more people via text.
Oh yeah, and by the way, I just have to say thank you for last week for to the chief of police and the officers for reaching out to the community when the water main broke. I know you guys went knocking the doors and leaving some notes, and so I appreciate that. The community was very grateful knowing that they have kids and it's like they prepare for like dinners and stuff like that. So thank you.
By the way, it's still the best form of communication, to knock on the door versus send an email.
Yeah, no. Because we know the neighborhood, so it's like, yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have a proposal from a company that does, I would have called it a TV series, but it's, I think it's just a series. This Giaccio, I know you met with him.
Bill, maybe we should have Bill at this meeting. We actually met with them yesterday via Zoom. They're out of, he's Italian, but they're out of England, I guess. But there is a international company that I sent along links to their videos, which I watched. They want to come to Sleepy Hollow and do a story about the people of Sleepy Hollow, not necessarily the village of Sleepy Hollow, but the people. We thought it was fairly interesting. The exposure is tremendous. Like I said, it's an international company. There is a cost involved. It's $3,400 for them to come. They would come, they talked about coming for about 3 or 4 days in May, and they would meet, I guess, some select individuals to interview, talk probably about the village, but also about what they do. In most cases, they'll pick people who have certain expertise, like artists or musicians or politicians or whoever. So I did ask the board to look at some of their videos to see if this is something we're interested in. Bell thinks it's great exposure, but it's not necessarily promoting the village as a whole. It's really promoting the people of Sleepy Hollow. So it's really up to you. What do you think it's worth?
Do you think that 3,400, that I assume would not include expenses? I mean, if they're traveling here.
You said
One lump sum.
3,400 or
Really?
34,000?
Well, they
That's astounding.
3,400, right?
34,000 or
3,400.
3,400.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that all for 3,400.
All staffed from the Philippines.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know how
So
you.
they have advertising on
Yeah, they
their,
sell their own they probably sell
Got
their
it.
own advertising.
Just plain tickets only, maybe.
Well, you
Yeah.
said they were on Amazon Prime too, weren't they? No, did that not say that?
No, I didn't have a chance to look at any of the videos yet. I'm wondering, can we punt this to, is there a deadline? Or-
No, that's my recommendation, is to look at the video, see if it's right for Sleepy Hollow before we commit. And I would wait a couple weeks if you're not ready.
There's something on, they're on Amazon Prime. They distribute, it says at the sole discretion of Amazon Prime Video, distribute the episode to Amazon Prime Video in the US and the UK. So it's definitely big exposure.
Yeah, but I think we'd like to get them here during Halloween season, obviously.
Yeah, they need to interview the horsemen.
And the people
But
that
does
they
he have a
interview are
voice?
gonna get a benefit from it, and they would need to be,
so you're
Alerted.
interviewing a guy with no head,
You can,
or
you can
person with,
send the horse.
hand gesture
Interview the
with his
horse.
sword, his pumpkin.
Interview the horse.
What if there's a person that is part of this and doesn't like what they put up about them? Do we know that?
Well, I would imagine that they would interview, there'd be selected
gotta
interviews.
be-
That's why I asked in the email response, do we know how is it chosen? Who they interviewed? Or did they just walk around town? Like, what happens?
I'm guessing we're gonna be the ones to recommend certain
Okay.
people that have. But those are the types of questions I'll go back and ask.
yeah, I'm sure they have some kind of release, if they're gonna use your image.
I mean, along those lines, maybe we put together a list as we're looking at the videos of who we think might be, and then we can just collate and rank and, however we want to do it.
Yeah, and if we like the program.
Yeah.
I looked at one of the videos just for a few minutes and it seemed kind of lighthearted and fun and, interesting. People were giving backstories of how they got there or, did they grow up there and how did they land, that sort of thing. It was interesting. And they're definitely, one's Italian, one I think is English, and they had like a lighthearted, at least the little clip I saw. It was nice. And for the minimal cost, might be worth it.
Yeah, that's what kind of gets me. It's minimal cost.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah, it must be the advertising, they must
Yeah,
get it on
they
the
must
back
make money
end.
otherwise.
Well, yeah, it's got to be a business model, but I like your suggestion and your support for Tom's suggestion, and let's take another week, give everybody an opportunity to make some popcorn and watch the links and see what we think. Okay, so we'll revisit next week. We have, for next week, wanted to put on a resolution for the NICOM training. There's a draft resolution. I would just change that. I mean, if we put it on for next week, I think we should all support it. But just say that members of the board who would like to attend are hereby authorized for a cost not to exceed.
Perfect, yeah, I intend to go.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, so we're gonna have to do another resolution, so just say members of the board.
I think the sign-up date to get the early bird price is like mid-April, I want
April
to say.
15th, I
Yeah.
believe.
Well,
Okay.
if we can approve it next week, then we're good.
Okay.
Thoughts? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Do you want to go into a
Yes, I
special?
would.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to enter a special session of the Board of Trustees.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Special session of the Board of Trustees called for the purpose of considering a single resolution, and that is to set a public hearing on the 23-24 operating budget. And we do have a resolution.
I could take it. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby schedules a public hearing to be held at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, at Village Hall, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, on the proposed Village of Sleepy Hollow 2023-2024 operating budget. Be it further resolved, the village clerk shall give due notice of this public hearing in accordance with the village code. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. Just a couple of thoughts by way of explanation. The draft budget, which by law is called the mayor's budget, is on the village website, so you can download it now and start to go through it and look for your comments on it. And the other thing that I would note is the budget has to be adopted by the end of April. So we've had a fairly thorough process with department heads putting in what they'd like to see in the way of budget increases or differences in their departments. And this is an opportunity for you and the public to review that and give the board your thoughts on the new budget. So any other comments, discussion on that? Then all in favor?
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed or abstentions? The resolution is approved. So we'll begin the public hearing on April 4th. Can I get a motion to end this? Something,
It could have been at a special session, but we also bring all the department heads in to present their budget to the village board over the next few weeks.
defend their requests.
Would it be possible to get their materials in like one lump package or like ahead of time instead of one at a time or something, so we could have the,
Yes. Well, yes. I think we have about 2 or 3 each meeting. We'll send those ahead of time.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks.
Motion to end the special session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Special session is ended And that ends, that completes our work for this evening and our work session.
Before we, and I also like to say thank you for the officers that they helped trap the burglary. That some that people were just taking jewelry that did not belong to them. So I would like to acknowledge the effort that the police officers are doing in our village also. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is everybody familiar with what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you could expand on it a little bit if you want to.
You want to? You want to?
Give a
And mention
summary
the
for
detectives,
the public.
the two detectives' names.
Regarding the arrest?
What's that?
Regarding the arrest?
Hello? Yeah, so there's been a pattern going around the, pretty much the tri-state area of burglary pattern, and they're targeting Asian business owners for whatever reason. And so we had one occur here on March 4th. Through evidence, it led us to the suspects, and we caught them in the act in Dobbs Ferry.
And was led by the detective.
It was Police Officer Livasanka and Detective Sergeant Kimotek, along with the Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force, as long as with Westchester County Real-Time Crime Center also.
Fantastic.
It was
Did the
quite-
family get their belongings back?
We are still in the process of trying to recover.
So,
Thank you, Chief, for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
yeah, especially worrisome because it was targeted to a particular racial or ethnic or national group. Well, not national, but yeah. So I think all of us echo Renee's thoughts. Good job. And pass that on.
Absolutely.
Folks.
I always say, we could, myself and lieutenants, we can draw up the greatest plan in the world, but unless the guys executed, and they executed this one absolutely perfectly.
Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. There's, for those of you who are at home, there's about an hour and 15 minutes left to vote. If you'd like to get out, or you should get out and vote. So you've still got an opportunity to do that. And we'll see you next week. Good night.